Hey there, class. We are going to take a look at parallelism, which is probably not something you're very familiar with, but it is extremely prominent in biblical poetry, ancient poetry, and it is something that is key. It's a key tool to understanding the Psalms and really any biblical poetry. So I know we have covered image words and metaphor and simile and repetition and those sorts of things, which are also good tools for understanding the Psalms. But I believe parallelism may be the most important tool for understanding biblical poetry. So what is parallelism? Parallelism, as you can imagine from the word parallel, is when two lines are artfully constructed to form a unit together. Because something in the second line answers to something in the first line, this verse form is known as parallelism. So you can literally think of two lines that are parallel to each other. They are going in the same direction. And so we're going to see that in these examples. The first type of parallelism is called synonymous parallelism. In synonymous parallelism, the second line restates all or part of the first line in different words or images. So let's take a look at this example from Psalm 46. It says, "The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." So it doesn't have to say the exact same thing, but it says it in different words or images. So I've underlined I've kind of coded these sentences so we can see what's the same, what's being paralleled. Well, the Lord of hosts in the first line, the God of Jacob in the second line, referring to the same person, just using different words. Is and is parallel, and with us and our fortress are also parallel. So we can see that it's saying the same thing in a different way. Let's look at another example. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. So we have, this is a partial synonymous parallelism. It's partial. The whole entire line is not restated in the second line, but righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed are restated. So let's take a look at the next type of parallelism. Antithetic parallelism. In antithetic parallelism, the second line states the truth of the first line in a contrasting way. Sometimes the writer will start the second line with the word but. So if you see the word but on the second line, that's a dead giveaway that it's probably an antithetic parallelism. So let's take a look at this example. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. So as you can see, what is contrasted here? Well, first we have light and lamp. Those would be parallel words. Those are the same general idea there. But of the righteous and of the wicked, we have two contrasting ideas there. And rejoices versus will be put out. So we have the light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. Let's take a look at another example for antithetic parallelism. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Let's analyze what's being contrasted here. Well, we have faithful are and profuse are. Those would be parallel. But the wounds versus the kisses, those are very different, right? And of a friend versus an enemy. So we have very contrasting ideas here. We have the faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Contrasting ideas from one line to the next. So that would be antithetic parallelism. Let's take a look at the third, synthetic parallelism. Synthetic parallelism should be thought of growing parallelism or expanding parallelism. The second line completes something that was introduced in the first line. These all look to you to give them their food in due season. So this is sort of just continuing on what's introduced in the first line. There may even be a sort of cliffhanger from the first line. It wouldn't make any sense without it. If we look back at the other examples, faithful are the wounds of a friend, you could stop there. You don't need the next line, but in order to make the point, you do. But you could stop with faithful are the wounds of a friend. That would be an okay sentence or idea to put forth. In synthetic parallelism, you really need the next line. These all look to you to give them their food in due season. Now, climactic parallelism. In climactic parallelism, the second line repeats part of the first line and then adds to it. So let's take a look at Psalm 96:7. Ascribe to the Lord, O families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. So the first two parts of these sentences are parallel. They're actually word for word. Ascribe to the Lord, ascribe to the Lord. In the first line, ascribe to the Lord, O families of the peoples. He restates the same beginning, ascribe to the Lord, glory and strength. It brings the first line to its fullness. It adds on to that first line, O families of the people, glory and strength. And we can look at the next line. In you our fathers trusted. They trusted, we're restating, and you delivered them. And it adds on in a climactic manner. In you our fathers trusted, they trusted, and you delivered them. So those are the four primary types of parallelism that we will see in the Psalms. So why parallelism? Why do you think the writers would use these types of structure in their writing? Well, number one, it's simply for artistry. It's nice in structure. It's like architecture. If you look at these Psalms, they're nice to read because you're reading them and it's sort of enjoyable because there's a structure to it. There's something to expect. It makes lines easy to remember. This is very common in ancient poetry. They would have remembered these lines, and in writing in this way, it made it very easy for the readers, the young readers especially, to remember these lines. And it really makes you slow down to really read and meditate on what the writer is trying to say. You can meditate on these lines and get tons of different feelings and meanings as you continue to read it. Sort of like turning a prism in the light and seeing all the different colors. As you read these parallel lines, they begin to make more and more sense as you read them over and over and over again, with the mindset of trying to extract more and more from it. I find parallelism to be a very beautiful aspect of poetry. It's one of my favorite aspects of the Psalms and all of the biblical poetry. So I hope this was helpful for you. Make sure you took good notes. If you need to go back and pause it, that would be fine.